Vesa had learned to keep her face still while entire star systems argued beneath it. In the council chamber, where light flowed like liquid glass along the walls and translation fields hummed softly, she sat composed and precise, a figure carved from certainty. No one could see the private calculation running behind her eyes, the calculation of a mother who knew exactly how fragile her daughter's future was. Talia stood at the edge of the chamber, tall and self-possessed. Her long ears rose elegantly through her dark hair, marking her as unmistakably of their people. She looked bored, though her gaze kept drifting toward the human man waiting near the delegation platform. Owen fidgeted with his ceremonial jacket, clearly uncomfortable with clothing designed for a species with different proportions. When Talia noticed, he offered a warm smile, unguarded and human. Vesa's chest tightened despite herself. Diplomatic marriages were supposed to be orderly, restrained, and dull. Owen, by contrast, had tripped over a gravity stabilizer on his first visit and apologized aloud as if the device had feelings. Talia had laughed so hard she nearly disrupted a minor treaty session. Vesa remembered that moment with both fondness and alarm. The council session ended. Vesa crossed the chamber to greet Owen, noting again how open his expression was. Humans were terrible liars. It was their weakness, and their charm. "You survived another council meeting," Owen said. "I think that earns us food. Preferably something that doesn't glow." "You say that every time," Talia replied, tilting her head. "And every time you choose something that glows." "That was one time. And it only glowed because I asked too many questions," Owen protested, grinning. Vesa allowed herself a small smile. Moments like this were why she had chosen him. Stability, kindness, humor. Things that could not be measured on genetic charts. Later, aboard their private transport, Vesa watched the city drift past in spirals of light. She replayed Talia's medical report in her mind. Their species did not forgive errors in reproduction. Talia's condition was clear, permanent, merciless. Vesa had spent years ensuring her daughter would never be reduced to a single failing. The marriage had been protection, a future without expectation. Talia leaned back in her seat, boots resting where protocol forbade. "You're thinking very loudly again," she said. "I am observing," Vesa replied, "mostly true." "I am happy," Talia said lightly, the word striking harder than any accusation. Vesa studied her daughter. Talia's smile was private, safe, yet it unsettled her mother. Life aboard the station drifted in an improvised rhythm, neither human nor alien, but something in between. Artificial gravity hummed, corridors subtly adjusted for visitors, and lights dimmed fractionally when solar flares passed. Owen worked as a liaison, translating intent as well as language. Talia corrected both sides with sharp precision. Together, they learned the station's quiet habits, sharing meals grown in modular biopods. "Humans invented bread that survives centuries," Talia reminded him once. "Then that's a noble achievement," Owen said, defending a glowing meal. Despite the humor, days carried weight. One evening, Talia returned from a diplomatic reception, her movements slower than usual. "You look like you negotiated with a black hole," Owen said. "Worse. Poets," she replied. He winced in sympathy and offered her a nutrient drink. The unease lingered. Over the following days, small things accumulated. Fatigue, sensory shifts, familiar foods tasting strange. Medical scanners showed nothing alarming. "You've been off-world too long," the physician said. "Your species reacts unpredictably to mixed atmospheres." Translation: They don't know. When alone, Talia returned to old medical data. The diagnosis was immutable. Genetic pathways locked, reproductive cycles halted. She had built her life around this truth. And yet, something within whispered insistently. The festival of returning stars summoned them back to her home world. Owen insisted on accompanying her, excited about ceremonial garments and glowing foods. "My mother will be there," Talia said carefully. "Excellent. I've been practicing standing respectfully without saying anything stupid," Owen replied, grinning. The homeworld greeted them with light heavier than memory, skies layered in metallic hues, bands shifting as orbital mirrors adjusted. Landing platforms were crowded with ceremonial constructs projecting historical imagery. Owen nodded solemnly at things he clearly did not understand. Talia found herself leaning on his presence more than expected. Despite the festival's beauty, unease returned. Sounds felt too loud, senses too sharp. Drums made her stomach twist. "You all right?" Owen asked quietly. She accepted a cooling wrap he offered, masking her worry. In private, Talia accessed the medical alcove. The scanner hummed, tracing familiar paths. The immutable truth, the impossibility, stretched into uncertainty. Several markers were outside expected parameters. Cross-referencing confirmed it. Gestational activity. She laughed sharply, disbelief echoing in the sterile room. "You are malfunctioning," she said. Diagnostics confirmed accuracy. Life had defied certainty. She found Owen, still arguing with a glowing confection vendor. "Hey," he said, noticing her. His smile froze. "We need to talk, somewhere private," she said. "Before my mother notices I'm thinking too loudly." Beneath softly illuminated arches of ancestral gardens, Talia shared the truth. Owen listened, expression shifting through disbelief, awe, and finally understanding. Either the universe made a very strange exception, or we're about to become a footnote in medical textbooks, he said. "Possibly both," Talia replied, laughing. Vesa noticed before anyone else. Not by Talia's stance, nor the subtle pause in movement, but in how reality itself seemed cautious around her daughter. During the morning procession, she observed Talia, poised, guarded, one hand resting lightly at her midsection. Vesa's breath caught. Impossible, she told herself. Certain things were facts, not mysteries. Inside the private chamber, Vesa confronted the truth. "How far along?" she asked. Talia swallowed. "We don't know exactly. The systems are confused." Vesa laughed, brittle and sharp. "Confused? Of course, because this is not possible." "It is happening," Talia replied evenly. Owen joined them. Vesa told him everything: diagnosis, planning, deliberate silence. Owen absorbed it, expression quiet, dangerous in its calmness. "Humans are good at that," he said. "We pretend to be confident." The universe had collapsed certainty, and for the first time, Vesa allowed herself to feel it: fear, guilt, and a fragile joy. Medical confirmations arrived. Talia adapted gracefully, physiology rewriting itself. Researchers whispered in awe. The hybrid field harmonized, defying every expectation. Council sessions were tense but contained. Vesa stepped back, observing rather than controlling. Owen stood firm, demanding respect for Talia and the child. Even the station seemed to adjust, its lights soft, responding to stellar events. Talia watched from the viewport, Owen beside her. "I spent my life believing the universe rewarded preparation," Vesa said. "Now it rewards humility," Owen replied. "And not poking things without permission," Talia added, smiling at them both. The birth came quietly, in the soft artificial night, unnoticed by ambitious council members. Owen stood by, trying not to narrate events aloud. Talia, calm, squeezed his hand. Vesa entered, approaching the child slowly. The baby's ears hinted at both lineages. Vesa touched the cradle lightly. "I was wrong," she whispered. "About control, protection, love." Owen shifted closer. "Humans are bad at predicting outcomes," he said. "We just pretend it's confidence." Statements were issued. Protocols drafted. Vesa stepped back. Talia recovered. Owen attempted a translation toy, projecting historical lectures instead of patterns. The child slept softly, glowing faintly, bridging worlds. The future remained uncertain, unplanned, yet alive. Science recalibrated, politics revised language, and life persisted, unyielding, untamed, impossible. In the orbiting station, beneath turning stars, humanity and alien kinship found their way. Together, they faced the unknown, determined to exist anyway. The day after the birth, the station felt different. Air pressure and gravity were the same, light still pulsed in their usual rhythm, but there was a tension, subtle and persistent, threading through the corridors. Vesa noticed it immediately. In the quiet way, staff avoided her eyes or lingered just a beat too long at the edge of her office. The word impossible was muttered behind closed doors, though no one dared say it aloud to her face. Talia, meanwhile, was navigating the station like a newly minted pioneer. The hybrid child, already nicknamed Kale by Owen, who insisted it was easier to pronounce than anything from Talia's lineage, lay sleeping in a softly glowing containment cradle. Its pulse was steady, rhythmic, and somehow calming. The researchers, who had expected chaos and emergency protocols, were instead stunned by its stability. Owen hovered constantly, more attentive than usual. He had become a protective barrier, politely but firmly deflecting any intrusion from medical staff, ethical boards, or curious junior researchers. "You cannot touch anything without consent," he said once to a visiting junior researcher who had hesitated at a console. "Observe all you want, but you will not poke the baby." The researcher blinked, confused, but obedient. Owen's quiet authority carried weight. Talia, for her part, was still adjusting. Her body had adapted quickly, yet she found herself exhausted in ways no human, or alien, manual could have predicted. Fatigue and emotion mingled, leaving her contemplative in long, silent stretches. Her mother, Vesa, remained nearby, balancing her maternal instincts against her lifelong habit of control. "You cannot micromanage this," Talia said once, noticing her mother inspecting Kale with a measuring scanner. "I am not micromanaging," Vesa replied. "I am observing outcomes. There is a difference." "Yes," Talia said, voice calm but firm. "And I do not consent to outcomes being dictated before they exist." Vesa paused, considering the statement. For the first time in years, she had no immediate response. Her daughter had grown into her own authority, independent of protocol or expectation. It was disarming. Meanwhile, the council had convened an emergency session. Hushed communications reached the station from multiple star systems. The hybrid child was unprecedented. No record existed in their archives of human-alien hybrid gestation succeeding against the known biology of Talia's species. Some factions saw an opportunity, a chance to study and perhaps replicate the phenomenon. Others saw a threat, a challenge to established hierarchies and controlled breeding programs. Vesa attended the session reluctantly, armed with carefully curated reports and tempered data. She spoke plainly, acknowledging the anomaly but emphasizing privacy and respect. "This is not an experiment," she told them. "It is a life. It will be treated as such. Speculation or interference is unacceptable." Some council members nodded politely, but she could feel ambition simmering behind their polite expressions. Scientific curiosity was a dangerous thing when paired with political power. Owen, ever the unintentional disruptor, had a different approach. He asked simple, human questions during briefings, questions that cut through jargon and false assurances. "Do we know for sure it's stable?" he asked. "No," one scientist admitted. "Then we don't. That's all we can say," Owen said. It was infuriatingly effective. Vesa watched in muted awe. He dismantled complexity with clarity and calm, something she had never managed with diplomacy or science. Days passed. Kale grew quickly, physiologically adapting at rates that defied models. The child's skin shimmered faintly in ambient light, responding subtly to both Talia and Owen's presence. It was as though the hybrid biology sought not just survival, but harmony. The station itself seemed aware. Lights dimmed slightly when the child slept, corridors adjusted for smoother transit, and air systems subtly shifted to optimize comfort. Engineers whispered that they had never seen the adaptive systems respond so intuitively. "It's not the baby," Owen said once, watching a sensor array adjust around Kale's room. "It's the baby interacting with the station. That's weirdly beautiful." Talia laughed softly, leaning against the viewport. "I think your science jargon just became poetic." Even Vesa allowed herself a small smile. The universe had thrown them an impossible challenge, and it had come with an unanticipated grace. Despite the calm, there were challenges. Certain factions of the council proposed observation teams, insisting on invasive monitoring. Talia and Owen resisted, citing consent and privacy. Heated debates flared through communication channels. "You are jeopardizing scientific understanding," one representative shouted over translation fields. "I am protecting a child," Talia shot back, her voice firm. "We are not tools for your curiosity." Owen added, in his patient but precise tone, "If you want to learn, observe with respect. If you do not respect boundaries, you leave." It was simple, unyielding, and effective. The council relented temporarily, though under pressure from other factions, they warned of future mandates. Vesa, sitting silently, felt a mixture of pride and dread. She had trained her daughter to survive politics, but nothing could fully prepare her for this level of scrutiny. Meanwhile, Kale began exhibiting unexpected abilities. The hybrid's nervous system interacted with station systems in subtle ways. Lights pulsed in rhythm with its heartbeat, minor energy fluctuations stabilized, and environmental systems adjusted preemptively. Researchers whispered theories, suggesting Kale was harmonizing the station's adaptive systems biologically. "This is impossible," one muttered quietly. Owen, watching Kale from a distance, shrugged. "Humans are surprisingly adaptable. Maybe this is just very human." Talia smiled faintly. "I think the universe has a sense of humor." Vesa frowned. Humor aside, the implications were immense. A living organism capable of harmonizing systems could shift power dynamics, redefine scientific understanding, and challenge deeply held biological assumptions. Weeks passed. Kale's growth continued steadily. Talia's body adjusted flawlessly to postpartum recovery, and she took on routines that balanced care for the child, work on cultural integration projects, and private reflection. Owen had taken up an unusual role: protector, advocate, and occasionally, comic relief. He tested adaptive toys, invented new communication devices, and monitored council communications for hints of interference. "You cannot possibly assemble that device correctly," Talia warned once, watching him attempt a small hybrid interface. "I prefer to call it experimental engagement," he replied, grinning. Kale, ever alert, reached out a tiny hand, causing the device to hum softly. Owen froze. "I don't think it likes me," he whispered. Talia laughed, resting her hand on his shoulder. "I think it likes you just fine." Vesa watched from across the room. The family unit had settled into a rhythm that defied prediction. It was organic, unplanned, yet surprisingly stable. Political challenges escalated. Some council factions sought to capitalize on Kale's unique biology, proposing public displays and experimental studies. Talia, Owen, and Vesa resisted. Vesa argued pragmatically, citing risk to both child and family, while Owen refused to negotiate ethically. "You will not turn a child into a case study," Owen said, voice calm but resolute. "You will observe, and you will respect boundaries. No exceptions." It was a stand that surprised Vesa. Humans lacked protocol training, but Owen had a way of cutting through bureaucracy that was disarmingly effective. Even seasoned council members hesitated to challenge him directly. Amid the scrutiny, Kale continued to demonstrate subtle gifts. Its presence seemed to stabilize energy fluctuations in the station, calm minor system errors, and even subtly influence ambient light and sound levels. Researchers began documenting the phenomenon, coining the term gestational harmonization field. "This could redefine adaptive technology," one scientist whispered. "Or redefine biology," another added. Owen, holding Kale carefully, muttered, "It's redefining parenting too." Talia smiled at him, placing a hand on his arm. "Some things need no terminology." Vesa, observing, realized the truth. Control was no longer hers to wield. The anomaly had grown beyond prediction, beyond political leverage, and even beyond her own understanding. The universe had intervened in a way she could not manage. Months passed. Kale's growth continued at a remarkable pace. Adaptive systems synced seamlessly with its presence. Talia and Owen developed intuitive care routines, balancing curiosity, love, and protection. Council oversight persisted, but was tempered by Vesa's careful diplomacy and Owen's simple insistence on ethical treatment. News of the hybrid spread quietly through the galaxy. Some systems celebrated the achievement as a breakthrough in interspecies collaboration. Others whispered fearfully about potential consequences. Everywhere, humans and aliens alike marveled at the impossibility realized. One evening, as the station rotated silently around the pale gas giant, the three of them, Vesa, Talia, and Owen, stood together at the viewport. Kale slept softly in its glowing cradle. "I thought control was everything," Vesa said softly. "Sometimes," Owen replied, "humility is stronger." Talia rested her hand on Kale. "And sometimes, life does what we cannot plan for." The stars outside shifted in their endless rhythm. The universe turned, vast and indifferent. Yet here, in this small orbiting station, life had carved its own path, unyielding, resilient, and utterly miraculous. Kale's first gestures outside its cradle were small, reaching for objects, responding to light and sound, and showing early cognitive recognition of familiar faces. Researchers documented these moments with quiet awe, careful not to interfere. Owen and Talia encouraged interaction, guiding Kale gently while fostering independence. Council debates continued, but with restraint. The anomaly was now a phenomenon, observed without overt interference. Scientists were fascinated, politicians cautious, and Vesa, for the first time, found herself observing rather than directing. Owen leaned toward Talia one evening, watching Kale's tiny fingers trace light patterns in the air. "We are rewriting expectations," he said softly. "Yes," Talia replied, smiling faintly. "And that is frightening and wonderful." Vesa, standing behind them, allowed herself a quiet smile. For once, she was not controlling, not calculating, not managing. She was witnessing life in its untamed glory, and understanding, finally, that some things were meant to exist beyond prediction.